welcome back to the Talking Wolves podcast. Finally to discuss a victory after a great start to the year. Obviously, it calmed down for Wolves a little bit, but we maintain those bragging rights at Molineux against Aston Villa. My name is Dave. Alongside me today, we've got Jord, Russell and Finn Morris. Finn, it's good to have you. It's good to have three of us here as well. I know we struggled to sort of get at least two or three of us in at the same time. But Finn, how you been keeping, mate?
Yeah, good, thank you, mate. I think, was the last time I was on? It wasn't West Ham, was it? It's going to look terrible for me if it was.
No, we had one a couple of weeks ago.
Just on whenever we win. Yeah, I think I've had one in between, haven't I? But I promise it isn't that. Whenever it's Claret and Blues at home seem to be good luck to get me on the podcast. But no, yeah, all good. Not much to report, I don't think. Nice to see a bit of blue sky and another win. So apart from that, not too much, all good.
The last podcast we did was we'd gone out for dinner after as well.
Oh, yeah, we did. Was it lunch?
Well, yeah, lunch, sorry. Lunch, dinner, depends.
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
What part of the world you're from, I suppose. Yeah, we went to the Mount Hotel. That was quite nice. There you go. Jord, good to have you back as well, mate. How you keeping?
Yeah, all good, mate. How are you?
Good. A bit more golfing on because the weather's held up a little bit, or?
Yeah, a little bit. But it was obviously anniversary Friday and stuff as well. So, yeah, spent that romantic meal at the Horseshoe. Managed to rush back and get the game in, which didn't go down so well, but yeah, fine. I sort of like brought the table forward by half hour, but she didn't need to know that properly. And then, yesterday I was meant to go and watch Stabbers play with a few of my mates, but we sacked it off because the majority of them are like West Brom fans, and they wanted to go and watch the Oxford game in a pub. So I had a lot of fun yesterday afternoon as well. So happy days.
Yeah, they are in an absolute mess at the moment, aren't they? But yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens with them between now and the end of the season. But it was a great weekend. It felt weird as well, lads, that we our game was done and dusted by the start of Saturday, so we could almost, and knowing that we've won, we can almost sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the results. And I mean, we're recording this sort of Sunday afternoon, so there's a few more Premier League games to go as well. Today still happening, so it's felt nice to relax and enjoy that result. And ahead of a really busy week, which we'll touch on shortly as well. But really intriguing lineup from Rob Edwards. I remember when this came out, obviously an hour and 15 before kickoff, and before I left the house, I just looked at the responses to it, and I thought, I want us to win, not just because I want to beat Aston Villa, but I want us to prove every single one of these people in these comments wrong, because the stick that the players that started and Rob Edwards got off that comment section on the Wolves social media was ridiculous before a ball was even kicked. But Finn, he sort of reverted back to this similar lineup to what he tried against Arsenal with Armstrong as that lone striker, which first early stages of that Arsenal game didn't quite work out. Obviously, Tolu ended up coming on in that match. But it seemed to click together and fall into place, I felt, on Friday. And Adam Armstrong in particular made a really good account of himself on Friday.
Yeah, and it's hard to judge that individual setup against Saliba and Gabriel, and it obviously it didn't work. It clearly didn't work. So I wasn't one of those that was in the replies. It takes a lot for me to drop a tweet on anything nowadays, so I wasn't too angry about it. But I was slightly disappointed when you see it. You thought, I've seen it once and it didn't work. And now in retrospect, you can go, maybe it was just the quality of opposition. Anytime Bellegarde's on against Villa since that last time he turned into Ronaldinho, that was nice to see, and that was maybe the glimmer of hope that I had. Mane had been off the ball the last few games, but you're hoping he could turn it on, and things went well. And that João Gomez-Andre midfield too, a year ago, you'd have no worries about it whatsoever. And it's weird now that before the game I was going, is that going to work? That was one of the things, my thesis, if there was any argument for us not to go down start of the season. I remember me and Jord were pretty doomsday at the start of the season, but my thing was, at least we've got that core of Agbadou, João, Andre, Strand Larsen, and you look back at that now, and a lot of that's fallen apart, but João and Andre were back to their best as well. So, I can't lie and say that I was very confident with the lineup, but yeah, Edwards knows best, clearly.
Yeah, I think the beauty with that sort of shape and the personnel, Jordan, it adds that little bit of fluidity as well, because Wolves could easily sit back with like a flat back 5-4 in midfield with like Bellegarde and Mane either side of the midfield too, and then the lone striker. And then going forward, like Finn said there, Jean-Marie Bellegarde I felt had a great game. Matthias Mane really kicked on. That was a really mature performance from him as well. It just had a lot, and I really want to see people like Angel Gomez play more often and Tolu get more chances as well. But in terms of an overall lineup and 11, I think everybody that started, maybe with the objection of Krejci, could come back in on Tuesday, but I think that 11 there just walks straight back into the side for Tuesday's game against Liverpool if they're all fit.
Yeah, I'm not so sure for Tuesday, but I think definitely for Friday in the cup game, 100%. I think that will probably be the 11 because they've earned it, right, and I think they deserve it. And I think it'll be interesting to see what happens on Tuesday anyway with the rotation. Because for me, you got to go all out for the cup really, and I don't mind us seeing like a weakened side out in the league now. Purely on the basis, I know there's a lot of fans that were really anxious about beating this Derby record, so now that's at least gone out the window. I think you just put all your eggs in the FA Cup basket, to be honest with you. But I think it's what we spoke about last week, Dave, on the podcast as well. I said I thought Andre and Gomez could actually quite comfortably win this midfield battle when it comes to Douglas Luiz and Arna with the injuries that Villa have got. And I think that what really helped as well solidify that was the fact of you bring Mane in there, you bring Bellegarde in there as well, and you almost like box that midfield out. And I think actually we won the midfield battle, and actually, it worked really, really well, right? And I think, Konza and Pau Torres didn't quite know whether to come in with Adam Armstrong when he was dropping deep as well, and caused them a lot of problems, to be fair. And, again, people are really, really quick to criticise Rob Edwards. I think, I haven't seen as many people who have been so quick to criticise him come out with the flowers on social media to say he got it right on Friday, and that's sort of the thing that pisses me off a little bit with social media. People write people off, people write players off, and then when the words get thrown straight back down the throat and say with two fingers up, they don't come back out and say, yeah, you know what, I got it wrong. So yeah, look, he got it right, and I'm really happy for Rob. I'm really happy for the team on what we saw on Friday.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a. See, I saw people say that the first half performance, I heard someone say it, I can't remember who it was, but one of the worst first half performances I've seen this season, which I think that's quite harsh, to be honest, because I've seen much worse performance.
Yeah, there's big competition for that award.
Yeah. It wasn't great, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it was awful, and again, Wolves not necessarily picking up the right areas, but I think what was key, which I said it on, I went on the Up the Villa podcast earlier this week. The key was just to frustrate Villa as long as you can. And we went in at half-time 0-0, which was crucial because we've seen so many games. I mean, interestingly enough, the game we've got this week, Liverpool, in the reverse fixture, we held them up until the 41st minute and they scored twice before half-time then. That ruined any chance. The City game, the Chelsea game, conceded early. You give yourself such a difficult job. But against teams like Villa, Unai Emery's got an awful record for whatever reason at Molineux as it is, and you're going in half-time, give Rob a chance to talk to the players, and Wolves come out a much better team in the second half. So I think in terms of that first half performance, although it was slow, obviously whatever Rob said at half-time worked out. And even for players such as Jackson Chichua.
Yeah, I mean, the first half performance, I think I put something in our chat after 4 minutes when you could tell, you can really see what confidence does to a player. And I don't know how they've injected a little bit into him at half time, but yeah, it'd be good to have Joey because first half it was almost like, what have they seen in this player to even think he's worthy of a Premier League position? And then second half you go, oh, maybe that's what they saw because he did stretch his legs and his crossings never. He seems to put in like unique crosses, like the one for the first goal, is like a cross that you don't see many players pick up, whether he meant to put it there in the first place. But to be fair to him, it looked like it did because I've given him enough criticism and you've got to say that second half performance was much better. But my God, yeah, I was growing quite tired of him. And then just like the doubts with Edwards as well, they shut you up in that second half, certainly. I can't lie, at half time. I mean, on Friday, there was a new Bruno Mars album. They'd re-released one of the new Pokemon games that I used to play as a kid. And I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, I could have been sat in the warm. At the half-time, I was thinking that. And that's why you never give in. I watched the extended highlights again this morning. And just as we're about to break for the second goal, you can see like 3 or 4 people will turn their back and walk down the stairs. And I guess they'd have still seen a win. But that's why you stay till the very end. For moments like that, we haven't had many this season. And yeah, it was brilliant.
Yeah, no, I think the Chichua one is really interesting because there have been so many times where he does something uncharacteristically positive. And I think, right, have we finally got this crap from him out of the way? And then, like you said, there were 2 or 3 times where the most basic of 5 or 10 yard passes is too powerful, it's too wide. And they're like, what on earth is going on? And then I saw on Twitter someone had posted a video. I don't know if it was because before the first goal, he actually whipped in a really decent cross before it as well, didn't he? Where he squared up to Digne and just used his best quality, which is his pace, to get it past him. And like you said, a real weird height cross, because it's almost not too high for obviously the Villa defenders to clear away, but it's almost like hip to chest height, isn't it? Where it's quite a difficult deal to cross with. And there's a clip of as the ball is coming to him, Rob Edwards is almost shouting to him, "Run down the line," and you can see the action. And then he does it, beats his man, and like I said, it was from sort of a 2-3 out of 10 in the first half to a real solid 8, possibly pushing 9 out of 10 in the second half. It's ridiculous. And Jord, we need to see more of that from him. I understand. And again, this was a main thing in the comments of that when the lineup was out. Why is he playing? Why is Chua playing? I do understand why people have reservations of that, but I also understand why Rob keeps picking him, because as a defensive player, his defensive actions aren't actually that bad. But in this system, when you're relying on those wide players and the wing backs, Hugo Bueno's kicking on. We've seen a lot more from him now. We need to see more from that opposite side with Jackson as well, don't we?
Yeah, and I think he's... Again, I feel like I didn't like the jeering and all that in the first sort of 20 minutes when everyone's getting on his back again. I think it's completely counterintuitive. I don't think it helps anyone. It just adds unnecessary pressure onto the whole team, not just Jackson Chua. And that second half, he was solid. He was really, really good. And I think actually, again, I've highlighted it on here a few times on this podcast, like one-on-one defensively, he's actually had some real good moments this season against. I remember the Brighton home game against Matoma. There's been others that have stood out as well. He's actually stuck to his task and done that side of the game really, really well. And I think where he sort of falls down a little bit is because if you just take his pace into account, he's like a world-class talent in terms of a footballer who's got the ability to run that quick, right? So I think as fans, we expect more from him. It's the same with Adama Traore for me. Like, I never understood why Adama Traore, every time we got the ball, Ruben Neves got the ball, I don't know why he just didn't set off and start running, because he should have used his pace all the time. And that's what happens with Stu a little bit, right? That we want more of him because he's got electric pace. We just expect him to square a man up every time and just go and do it and beat a man. But again, as I've caveated a few times in here, the reasons why some of these players at Wolves is because of that they've got inefficiencies in other areas of their playing ability, right? And he just is what he is. I actually think it's one of those that I think he's getting slightly better. I don't necessarily think he's the best on the ball. We know that. I don't think it needs an analyst to tell you that, right? But I actually think he's okay. Like, I do genuinely think he's okay. I think a lot of the criticism is a little bit unnecessary, and I think he's one of those. If and when we keep him, because I do think we'll keep him next season. To be honest with you, in the Championship, I think he'll be one of those where he might actually settle down. We'll have more of the ball. I think. We might see a better version of Jackson Chua. He might get his confidence up, and then that should just grow from there. But I don't think he's a terrible, terrible footballer. We've had far worse. And again, seeing comments saying he's the worst football player for Wolves, he just isn't. He's not. I don't know. He's not fantastic, but he's definitely not nowhere near the worst.
Yeah, we need to see more second half performances like that from him, because I think if we do between now and the end of the season, it will give fans a little bit more confidence in him. And when we go down, in the Championship, if he's a player that sticks around, that's a big opportunity. Like you said, Jord, he's had a year in England for him to settle down and hopefully kick on and become a better version of the player. Finn, in the first half, though, it was almost like you mentioned the mistakes that he was making. There were times where players were almost point blank refusing to give him the ball, though, especially in our first half. It was almost a little bit awkward at times to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah, that theory had started to creep in the last few games, wasn't it? That the players don't trust him, they won't pass to him, and it was just a couple of all the things that people have been saying, wasn't it? There's a couple of very simple passes weren't completed. There was one where there was literally just so much green grass ahead of him and turn back, and then there was a few where Mosquera seemed to look over and turn around. So yeah, it was all at once for him, bless him. And I don't know, because I go back to thinking, like, it's not as if Rodrigo Gomez isn't quick. So I know Jackson is another level. So it's if you're only keeping him for the pace. That's why I'd been sort of petitioning for Rodrigo, but he seems to be played more and more as an impact player, and we've seen that's obviously worked quite well. So I don't know. He's not one where I'm obviously not desperate for him to stay next season. If he's here, so be it. I'd much rather Then again, are you going to have it? That's another discussion whether we're going to play 5 at the back next season, and in which case it might suit him even more if he's just sat in that 4. But I remember when we signed him from Hellas Verona, he'd been played as a right winger as well, hadn't he, as well as a right back? And I can't imagine. Like, I think Hellas Verona qualified for the Champions League the season before with him. I'm like, how with him at right wing have you done that? I mean, you almost want to bring him further and further back. And if it is in a back 4, that's the one thing I'm telling myself. Could that be okay? But I guess we'll see. But yeah, I'd love to watch back some of those highlights. I might dig that out for a bit of Sunday watching. Jackson Chatua, Hellas Verona, skills, tricks.
No, he was a big part of that first goal anyway, because like I said, the second time he actually squared up to Digne, beat him. Like I said, that sort of interesting type of cross which Villa didn't deal with the first time either, and it falls to Adam Armstrong, who sort of, I don't know if it's his touch that he's intending to like bring it down for himself to have a shot, but either way, I think he's disguised it in a way, Jord, that it's that touch that sits right in the path of João Gomez. Really clever forward play either way, and it just needs a strike, and it's quite a rare goal from João Gomez. I know he grabs a handful a season, but like we mentioned earlier, him and Andre have been a little bit quiet this campaign. But it's a fantastic finish to fire it past Emi Martinez. Get it on target, lots of power, pick your spot, and that gives us a real crucial and decent lead at Molineux.
Yeah, I think it's intelligent running by Armstrong. I do think he's not trying to lay that off to João Gomez. I think he's trying to. He's a bit of a slightly heavy touch himself. Yeah, respectfully, if you came on here and told us differently, I'd accept it then. But yeah, I think it's a slightly heavy touch. I think he was trying to bring it into his path, but the ball was slightly behind him, and that's at that point really for him to do that. And look, it's set up nicely for João Gomez, and he's took it unbelievably well, right? And I think, in terms of, rightly so, he got a bit of criticism for losing his man against Crystal Palace on the weekend. I think he more than made up for it on Friday night with his performance against Villa. And like I say, the goal was, he took it really, really well. And to be fair to João Gomez, he does get 1 or 2 a season, but he doesn't really score tap-ins. He does, we always remember that Southampton away one on his debut as well, right? He seems to, put them away. And look, it's just, I'm so happy for the team, really, in terms of it's been such a bleak season, and more so really for the fans as well, right, that were there. That you get a special night like that and a special moment like that, and the fun police will tell you not to celebrate too hard because of where we are in the league. But yeah, as a fan's perspective, I think we've got every right to enjoy it. As a player's perspective, I kind of get it a little bit, some of the comments, to be fair. But as fans, we are going to over-celebrate. We've gone and beat Villa again at Molineux, and if we can put a pin in their European aspirations, then so be it.
Yeah, we might get that reputation of being the party poopers between now and the end of the season, I think, anyway, Finn. I think, in terms of taking points off Arsenal and then all of a sudden putting their sort of title hopes in some sort of jeopardy. We've got some huge fixtures between now and the end of the season as well. Liverpool chasing Champions League, Brentford chasing European aspirations, and then a huge chunk of those games against teams that are all sort of fighting for survival as well at the bottom end of the table. It could be a really interesting battle, especially as now, I think if all of a sudden we somehow beat Liverpool on Tuesday, I think fans are possibly going to think, hold on a minute. We've won 2 on the bounce. You look at the remaining fixtures against teams that are all of a sudden out of sorts. Wolves fans can maybe dare to dream, but if things don't go to plan at the weekend, I think that has got to be sort of, obviously we want to pick up as many wins and as much momentum as we can between now and the end of the season, but we probably will get that reputation where neutral fans and other fans are sort of starting to hope and support Wolves in the fact that they're going to damage their rival fans' chances of achieving something this season.
I was thinking that before, Dave, that if we'd have beat Palace, you'd have definitely come on this today and gone, could we? Is there a chance?
Might be back.
But it's the hope that kills you. So we'll try to just stick with that sort of party pooper mentality. And I think, to be fair, from the Arsenal game, I've got a couple of Spurs mates, and I said I'm going into it purely as like a hate watch. Like, the points aren't going to benefit us, whether 1 or 3 weren't going to really do much for our long-term destination. So you can't beat a hate watch. And when it's your own team, it does add that little sprinkle on top. And the Villa one felt a little bit like that as well. So if it's like this, we haven't had much to smile about. If it is purely taking happiness from other people's sadness, then yeah, let's go with that. But who is it we could ruin? But you say obviously Liverpool.
You've got Liverpool,
top four.
Brentford.
But they're all going for Europe, aren't they? Really, there's like everyone with a couple of games.
And then I think I might be wrong, but I would assume the rest of the games then are all against teams in the bottom half. I think pretty much. I'm not so clued up on that exact middle pack and who's sat where, but it's definitely none of the big boys.
We must have Spurs at home at some point.
I think before the Villa game on the Opta thing, it said Wolves had the second easiest run of fixtures between now and the end of the season out of any other team. Villa were top of that. So, yeah, we've still got to play Sunderland at home, Spurs at home. We've got Burnley away, that final game, which again could be interesting. It's not a success by no stretch of the imagination, but considering the position that Wolves are in, if we somehow manage to finish above Burnley as well, which looks a real possibility potentially now, that would be actually a decent result to end the season. I know it sounds awful because we'd still be relegated, obviously, but anyway, wrap up with the second goal as well. Jord, brilliant counter-attack by Wolves. It was a little bit worried, obviously, Finn, you would have been right in front of the North Bank end goal there when Villa were knocking on the door. There was one cleared off the line at one point at 1-0 as well. They hit the side net in, and then Jord to see his counter-attack like that. And it was the first time, I mentioned it on my post-match reaction, the first time I've really started to see proper patterns of play from the Wolves team. And although it was a little bit of a disjointed counter-attack because the ball was free, and I think Mane was probably disappointed that he couldn't have a whack at it. And in the end, it's Rodrigo back to goal, spins and puts it in the back of the net. And he just seems to pop up right place, right time, doesn't he, whenever he gets those opportunities, Jord?
Yeah, and like I say, we had the conversation about Rodrigo Gomez last week, right? But he's there because he's infectious. He's like the Energizer Bunny, and yeah, he'll always just get up and down the pitch and give you 110%, which is why I think there's a lot of fans. He's a bit of a cult hero with the fan base at the moment, and why a lot of fans want him in the team every week because he's infectious, right? And look, he took the goal well. I think you're right in terms of the counter attack itself. I think it's very rare we've seen Wolves have that sort of pace in a counter attack for a very, very long time. I think there was elements of it last season. The Pereira, was it the Spurs game where Rodrigo scored as well? I think on the break. I could be wrong.
Leicester he scored. Yeah. He may have got a goal on the Spurs game. I can't think.
I think there was a
counter attack. There was the one.
Leicester was the one who scored the fourth goal. Yeah.
That when he ran the length, that's exactly the goal I'm thinking of then. So yeah, so there's elements of that, right? And look again, like you look at the scenes in the South Bank on some of the fan cams and stuff. It's just like it's epic. Yeah, it's brilliant that people again got to experience that. And look, it's a little bright spark in a real black hole of a season so far, but. It's worth it for those scenes, those celebrations. Saw how much it meant to Rob Edwards as well, like running down the sideline as well. And I just think these like little upshoots really for going into a pre-season and going into next season, where realistically, let's be honest, we are going to be kicking football in the Championship next year, but we need this momentum. We need moments like this to get that confidence within the playing squad, within the management squad as well, to actually hold us in some good stead to start next season well, right? So, if we can have a few more of these moments from now until May, then, yeah, inject it. Let's get a few more of them.
I agree. Yeah, and you had Mosquera getting involved as well, Finn, and that counter-attack. I remember seeing it in the ground. I was like, man, what is he doing? Whereas I thought, he obviously knows in the back of his head, yeah, this could be the last kick of the game, which it pretty much was. But yeah, he's just another sort of reason and another clip to show why that guy is just off his head, because most players would just sit deep, make sure they don't make a mistake, and he was desperate to be involved in that. But like George said, I mean, some of the clips and the video reactions, I think, I don't know if it was Steve Bullend or maybe even a Villa fan in that Steve Bull lower of that second goal, and it pans to the South Bank. But I remember, like, by me, it was carnage. Like, and it's weird because there are, like George said earlier, a lot of fans, rival fans, saying like, "Why are we all celebrating like that?" But there have been next to little moments and like that, and it was great. It was a really, really good night at Molineux as well. I think that showed with Rob Edwards as well, but. The reaction from Rob Edwards, I mean, he normally, when he comes towards the South Bank end, is like, oh, but he just absolutely went for it, all sorts of fist pumps there. What do you make of that reaction, Finn? I think for me, it was almost like, I think obviously he knows, he's not stupid, he knows there's a massive job to do, and it's probably too big a job for anybody at this point. But it almost felt like a weight off his shoulders after probably quite a tricky week after that Palace result last week.
Yeah, and you just take it in isolation. I think it wouldn't be me without some sort of Football Manager quote in here somewhere. And even if you're top of the league in Football Manager, and if you lose to the local rival in the game, the board still get annoyed at you or whatever. Like it's not West Brom, is it? It's not that big of a thing, but it's something to be happy about. And as you say, there's been such a lack of that. I missed the West Ham game. I was with the in-laws at Centre Park, so it was. I've been starved of any points anywhere. So it was just if we weren't saying we are staying up and whatever, and it was just celebrating the moment. And granted, if Villa did it the other way around, I'd be probably sticking the boot in on it and going down and. It's not a derby anyway, and it happens. Whoever loses that derby always says it's not a derby every time, and we rinse and repeat this as we rinse and repeat Mosquera getting involved. So this podcast is getting pretty repetitive with the events going on. But no part. A little bit of me is going, oh God, this is a lot. But you know what? Let's enjoy it. There might not be many more moments. There's a distinct possibility we don't win another game, isn't there? So
yeah, exactly.
This could have been the highlight, and let's enjoy it. And obviously, the dressing room footage went pretty viral all over the place. But I love to see it.
Yeah, a lot of people saying about that dressing room footage, but I think the players obviously happy because they're won. But Rob Edwards is just I don't know what I don't know if he was told he'd be sacked if we lost that game. I just don't know. The reaction was a little bit like I'm happy. He's happy, of course, but it was almost like what's been said out here. Like, what's he feeling? I don't quite understand. But I suppose he was ex-Villa as well, so there's probably a lot of people close to him that sort of have allegiances to both teams. So it's probably big for him as well. But yeah, I mean, with the Villa fans, I mean, Wolves were singing 1-0 to the Championship, and you know, we had the Mind the Gap came out from the Villa fans, and then Wolves brought it back when we were obviously winning the game as well. Going back to something you said there, Finn, as well. I've only just clicked it. There was a real battle between Mosquera and Morgan Rogers throughout the game. But obviously, Morgan Rogers was the player that gave him quite the serious injury, wasn't it, a year or two ago?
Of course it was, yeah.
So
him and Dawson won it in a 2, doing all right, and then derailed his season.
Yeah. So there was a real battle going on there. I think the first half as well, Mosquera just being his usual self, winding Rodgers up a little bit.
It felt like, you can get like a booking for cumulative fouls. It was almost like he got booked for just cumulatively being a pain in the arse. Like, because the actual thing he got booked for was never a booking in a million years, but he had jumped on the floor 4 times in the last 5 minutes, so it just felt like there was one
when did he get booked? Was it first half or second?
Was it on a corner? Was it the back post on a corner, I think, or was it?
Yeah, it was first half, wasn't it? It was about 35th minute in or something like that.
Yeah. So there was the moment where right by the South Bank in the corner, him and Morgan Rogers were going at it, and they both went down on the floor, and I think Mosquera got up and like pulled his shirt or said something to him whilst the ball's like in play, and then Rogers gets up and just pushes him with 2 hands, and Mosquera goes flying, and then the ref stopped the game and gave Rogers a booking. And I said it's like that was like summed up Mosquera to a T, and because he will draw bookings, he will draw cheap free kicks away, and he will a lot of opposition fans and players probably hate playing against him. And again, will be a really interesting one to see if we keep hold of him between now and next season as well. Very quickly, I want to touch on 2 more players. Jord, I'll start with Mane, who I don't think he's had a bad game of football since breaking into the team, but obviously he's set his bar so high when he first broke into the first team. But Friday night showed a real mature side of Matheus Mane, continued that strong work rate, real good quality on the ball. And then I think the highlight, which a lot of people have pointed out right at the end of the game, the little flick over Matty Cash's head just showed his composure and quality as well. But a fantastic performance, real mature performance from a player. Like I said earlier, flexibility in terms of where he's playing, higher up, holding midfield. I know I don't want to get too carried away, but he's really showed there why there probably will be top teams, talking about him in the summer.
Yeah, I thought it was his best performance in a few games. I think he's been a little bit quiet in the last maybe 3 or 4 games. I think he had a really good second half against Everton away where he obviously got the goal, and then it's not like he's played bad or done anything that's been like, where you would call out to say like, he's not playing very well, but he's just, I thought on Friday night, like, it was almost like I think when he's first come in the team, it's very much around like exuberance of youth and like just fearless and just going, playing on instinct and doing all that stuff. I actually think the game against Villa, especially when we went 1-0 up, I think he played like a seasoned professional 28-year-old bloke who'd done it. It's been there, done it, and played 300 games. He was drawing fouls, he was breaking up play, he was holding up play. Just really, really clever footballer. And yeah, I think sometimes you can look at your own players with sort of like rose-tinted glasses and fall in love with them a little bit more than really what their abilities are. But no, I think this guy's just destined for like bigger and better and greater things than us, unfortunately. And look, I'd love to keep him. I think at best, the best we can do, I think personally, is that we can keep him for a season on loan next season, but we've already sold him. I just don't see any world where we get to keep him, we don't accept a bid. So I just think, if we can keep him for a season, keep him playing men's football. But I've even seen like people on the, not Wolves fans, but other people just talking about him being an outside shout to go to the World Cup squad, which I think is a little bit premature.
I saw that on Friday as well.
Yeah, I think, and again, like maybe statistically he'd be up there, right, in terms of since he's broke into the team. But there's so many top players for England. We're kind of blessed in that position. I don't think he'll make the World Cup in the summer, but I think if he wants to play for England and in the future, if that's where he chooses allegiances for his nationality, then yeah, he'll definitely play at World Cups and European Championships for us in no time, I'm sure.
Yeah, that'd be easy. I thought about that earlier in terms of selling him and having him back on loan or something for a season, but it would almost, although I'd love that for him to be in a Wolves shirt, it'd almost feel annoying that we're sort of continuing to develop the player for somebody else, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens with Mateus next season. I think a lot of it will be agent led, and I think his agent's not stupid. I think his agent knows, what happens or how to play things in the real world, and it's just be up to Wolves to dig their heels in and get the right fee for him. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And Finn, one other player came in at sort of not necessarily out of the cold. It was sort of expected with Krejci's suspension. Totti Gomez as well. It's a clean sheet for him back in the squad. Do you think there's a decision there for Rob Edwards to make this week in terms of him sticking with that place, or do you think Krejci comes back in possibly?
Yeah, I didn't expect it, but I guess there is. You thought Totti would maybe get half an hour or 40 minutes somewhere before he was thrown straight back in, but it didn't look like he needed warming up. Yeah, he was fantastic. Could you get them both in? Krejci would, obviously, you could only get Krejci in the centre. I wouldn't really be comfortable with Totti in the centre. I guess that could work, but you're more than likely with the Tuesday, Friday going to see rotation anyway, aren't you? So if that works well, that you can have one left footer on the Tuesday, one on the Friday, I imagine that's what we'll see. But yeah, very pleasantly surprised. It's one I'd sort of forgot about him, and then equally when they were coming out, he wasn't, because he's club captain, but he wasn't captain of that match, was he? Sarr was captain, so I don't know what went on there, how that works, how your club captain isn't captain when he's on the pitch, but that's besides the point.
It might have changed. They might have changed it because obviously that was Victor's choice. So I do wonder if Rob's possibly changed it. I don't know. Well, we'll see.
Captaincy to the guy trying to leave on deadline.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. No, it'd be great win for Wolves. I'm sure obviously we might touch on it again with the questions towards the end, but it is the start of a busy week, quite a unique week as well. Wolves host Liverpool twice, both games at Molineux. Firstly on Tuesday, I think it's a 8:15 kickoff. It's quite a late game on in the Premier League, and then we host them again on Friday in the FA Cup. George, you alluded to it earlier that your priority, which I think a lot of Wolves fans would be, the game on Friday. I've just got a feeling Roberts is still going to go really strong for both games, though.
I don't know. I generally don't know. Like in terms of, for me, if I was Rob Edwards now, especially now he's got that win against Villa as well, it almost takes that pressure off him that was building from, maybe needlessly, some would say, that he doesn't necessarily, he's not going to get judged from in isolation against Liverpool at home in the Premier League game. If we lose that, It's fine, right? I think as well with the context of it all. For me, I just think, I'm not saying you should ever down tools in any football game. I'm not for that, but I would really, think, especially with the turnover 3 days. Look, Liverpool have got to go all out in the league and they've got to go all out in the cup because of where they are in the league right now. They're trying to get into Champions League positions. they're obviously going to go strong in the cup as well to try and get some silverware. I just think the fact that we're playing them twice in 3 days, if we've got the ability to like rest a few players and prioritise the cup, for me, I think you've got to. I think you've got to, like, you know, if we come 20th or 19th again, I do genuinely think we'll catch Burnley as well. What you alluded to earlier, Dave, but. Yeah, if you offered me, we could win one game this week. It's 100 million %. It's Friday, and I'd even take winning on Friday and Liverpool putting 5 passes on Tuesday. That's how strongly I feel about it. Genuinely, I just think just go for the cup.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do agree. I would prioritise the cup. My concern would be if Rob did that, for argument's sake, and sort of rested certain players on Tuesday, and he didn't. And obviously, we lost Tuesday. And then he brings the stronger players back in Friday, and we still lost. I think he would get stick for that. So I think we have to consider, obviously, in terms of the turnaround of games, not just this week, but the last few weeks, we've had a lot of football matches. So we do have to be cautious of that and players' conditions and so on. I think a lot of Wolves fans would probably say Friday as well. But Finn, I think if Wolves somehow caused a shock and won Tuesday, though, I think I'm going to continue to believe that, you know, the great escape continues.
I don't want to stoke the fire, but I've had the Man United game on in the background and they've just flashed the table up. And David, Newcastle lost, Palace lost, Leeds lost, Tottenham lost, Forest lost, West Ham lost, Burnley lost, Wolverhampton Wanderers. Mate, big green 2-0 on there. They're flashing up on the table.
Mind the gap.
So recent form would suggest if that carries on. Now, to be fair, I was looking at it. You go, God, if we did beat Palace, I might be on the bus with you. It's never going to happen. And I think we've said it's been the final nail in the coffin probably 14 or 15 times. But I think Liverpool truly would be. And yeah, realistically, if we could just a semi at Wembley would be nice to have remembered something from this season and have a little bit to cheer for. So that's a semi-final. I can see.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, decent away there. That does. Yeah. I mean, looking at their form as well, obviously it's picked up a little bit. Jord, do you think they're there to be got at though, Liverpool? I think, you know, it'd be interesting to see how they approach. I think their priority probably is the league and obviously pushing for the Champions League qualification. And their squad is so strong because they could rotate Friday and it would still be a really strong team regardless. But they have picked up form. So, they're not going to be easy games. I mean, we could easily be chatting next week about 2 defeats, 2 comprehensive, defeats. I know we're getting a little bit overexcited now, but they're not pushovers. They're a good football team.
No, of course so. Yeah, they won the league last year for a reason, and I know they've been a little bit off form this year for their own standards, but I still think they've got very, very good footballers. And you can talk about Salah maybe dipping a little bit, Van Dijk dipping a little bit this year, but someone like Szoboszlai for me, anytime I watch him, I just think he's an unbelievable footballer. Ekatike's been red hot. Like, they've got players that can hurt us all over the pitch. So, yeah, look, it's going to be difficult. And like you say, we could quite easily play our strongest 11 in both games this week and still lose both quite handsomely. Right, so there's no right or wrong when it comes to like maybe resting or rotating. I just think, hopefully, Liverpool might rest a couple or rotate a couple on the Friday just to, give certain people a game. But, you look at their squad in comparison to ours, if they rest and rotate versus when we rest and rotate, like, they're still going to be infinitely stronger than what we are. So, yeah, look, yeah. I think to get results in either or both the games, you're going to have to ride your luck. You have to play well, and you're going to have them to have an off day on one, if not both games. So, yeah, it's going to be tough regardless, but yeah, let's just see how this week goes. I think the Villa result gives us a bit of momentum, and also playing at Molineux as well. Like, since Rob's come in, other than the Man United game, we have been really difficult to beat, in my opinion. We don't really necessarily get hammered. So if we can just keep in the games, if we can keep it cagey, keep it tight, and try and do what we did against Villa, nick one, and then try and hit them again on the break, then we've almost got the master plan from that Villa game on Friday, to be fair, to try and replicate twice.
Yeah, just got to try and frustrate them as long as we can, say it exactly the same as Friday. I read earlier on, Mohamed Salah on his longest ever goal drought, Finn. I think 10 games without a goal. So welcome to Molineux, Mr. Salah. I really hope we don't, not expecting us to, but we have kept Salah predominantly under Aït-Nouri's reign as left back, we've kept him relatively quiet, to be fair. But yeah, it's probably written in the stars for him to rock up and pop a couple past us on Tuesday.
Yeah, I saw when Liverpool played Man City the other week how everyone was going, "Oh, how well did Aït-Nouri do against Salah?" And that is one of those things where you realise that God, we are the general Premier League football fan does not know anything. Then again, would I know that Brighton's left back had shut down Salah for so many years? Probably not. But we knew, didn't we, that it was always Aït-Nouri, and no more so than the one where we subbed him off and Salah did he score or at least contributed?
Came on a left back, didn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, literally. God, that was horrible. But we could
Bruno
recall him for this
game.
one. Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, he sent Bakiana over after the game, didn't he?
So yeah, not as confident without Ryan there as of every game this season. Although Hugo Bueno has looked really, really good recently, and probably been one of the shining lights of the season. But yeah, Aït-Nouri was special, and I've had agendas over this podcast for Sterling, who I've seen off now. He's now in the washed meme compilations like the Ferdinand at QPR. So we've done that one well. And the Salah one, I've always said he's not. It's horrendous. I've said he's not a good footballer, and then he just is. But my agendas do seem to link up with them being 35 or whatever they are, and obviously they're not going to be a good footballer forever. And Salah has achieved ridiculous things. But he's just not very aesthetically pleasing. And I've always had an agenda, and I think it will come home that he will score a hat-trick. And I think there was one. Did he have a disallowed one, either the last time we played them or the one before? And it was unbelievably twisted Totti up left, right, and bent it top corner.
Yeah.
And that shut me up. And then I think it was offside or something, so I could carry on with my agenda. But yeah, he will score. He will definitely score.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I'm hoping that, if I don't know what I'd say if we were sat here next week and Wolves had somehow won both games. I think I'll be starting my statue building classes to erect the statue of Rob Edwards. But we'll wait and see. But let's hope the FA Cup run can continue, and if they can shock us and we can get something in the league, then let's dream. Let's jump on to the questions then, lads, before we finish off for today. RJ, quite an interesting question, actually. Jord, we'll start with you. Do you reckon there will be any big players that will actually just leave on loan instead of permanently, because we'll have the view of maybe having them back with us in the Prem? For example, Krejci goes out on loan for a year and then we'll get promoted and bring him back into the Premier League. I don't think that would be Wolves' preference, perhaps, Jord. And it's hard with a fan's perspective of a player as well. Like, you're almost not jumping ship as such, but you're jumping away for a year just to come back when we're back in the big time. But, if there are players that Wolves are struggling to shift on decent permanent deals, that might be an option.
Yeah, it all depends on the market as well, right? In terms of, again, I think there's going to be a lot of the players that we've effectively overpaid for, especially that crop in the summer we brought in. I know we've got rid of a couple where we're probably not going to get the money back that we want for them. And even by that, I mean by just breaking even, right? And I think Krejci, €35 million. I think the fee is going to be made permanent in the summer. Do I think someone's going to come in with €35 million on the base of this season on Krejci? I think he's a decent footballer, but I think you'll struggle to get that. And I think, if you get some like hefty loan fees for some of these players with the wages covered, it makes sense for everyone, right? To be able to do that as well, because obviously we're not paying those those wages when we're in the Championship where revenue's going to be down, and we're going to get a decent loan fee for a player that may or may not want to be here anyway. May or may not want to play in the Championship, right? So I'm not against it. I think you just have to get some real good loan fees in for them, really, because any money we're getting in, you're going to want to pump back in to try and get back up at the first time of asking.
Yeah, I agree. So a quick look. Finn, OJ, Bailey. Would you rather West Bromwich Albion go down, hilarious in his opinion, or 2 Black Country derbies next season? Also fun, but obviously risky regarding bragging rights. I'm happy for him to go down, Finn.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know about you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I am. Because see, the FA Cup game was amazing. You can't beat that feeling, but it's just funny, and it is just funny. And even though the day is amazing playing them, the nerves for the 2 weeks before, it's just funnier to laugh at them for a year than be able to laugh for a couple of afternoons having been pooing myself for a couple of weeks. So yeah, I'll go with the relegation. And are they 3 points off now? And then Oxford.
Yeah. So if Leicester didn't have their
bottom.
deduction, they would be West Brom would be in the drop zone. But the issue, the situation is obviously they lost to Oxford yesterday, who were in the drop zone, so it puts even more pressure on them. Teams like Norwich, who were really struggling, obviously then is it Clement came in and he's really turned their fortunes around. The thing is, I have no doubt, and I don't want to turn this into talking baggies or whatever, I have no doubt there are teams around West Brom that West Brom technically and on paper are much better than, but their momentum at the moment is absolutely non-existent.
Worse goal difference than Leicester and Oxford as well, if it comes to it.
The thing is, Leicester, they are absolutely cooked if they go down, by the way. Like, there will be some serious problems at that football club if they go down, like financially. Maybe some bargains to be had there. I know we were linked to the one guy, the one winger from Leicester. I can't remember his name.
Was it Fatawu or
Jeremy Monga? Yeah, Fatawu.
Sorry.
Yeah. But Jeremy Monga, I've not heard much about this year as well, and he was meant to be
like 17, was he?
Yeah,
he's been manager.
Maybe some bargains there to be had. But what's your stance on it, George? With the West Brom, obviously you've got a few baggies base mates.
Yeah. Get rid of them. To be honest, we just get rid of them because, as well, like the problem is though, it's like this is in any other normal seat, if Wolves were even just remotely half decent, I'd even take being 18th and scrambling for it itself. We'd be able to really take the piss out of them, and we can't really. I mean, I could yesterday because of the Villa result, so it sort of give me a little bit of credit in the bank. But yeah, the thing is, like, I'm old enough, ugly enough, and wise enough to know anytime we play West Brom, should I say not West Ham, West Brom. I know we beat them in the FA Cup at the Hawthorns, and that was great. Like they just beat us. We just don't have a good record against them in my lifetime, and it doesn't matter how good we are, and it doesn't matter how shit they are. I would still think they'll beat us every time we play them. I just got this horror. I always have this
Villa thing, isn't it? It's
the reverse Villa thing. Yeah, it is the reverse Villa. Like, I just think they'll beat us. Yeah.
There's a question directly for you, Jord, as well. I don't know if you saw it. Daniel Levia, he said, for Jord, do games like this make you regret not going more to Molineux? Will you try and go next season a little bit more, assuming we start getting some wins, or is it purely on principle you aren't going, and next season will probably make no difference?
Okay. Oh yeah. So yeah, like in terms of what was I jealous watching the scenes and everything on Friday, like 100%, like those are the games that you live for, those atmospheres, like beating your local rivals or one of your local rivals like that. It's brilliant, right? And I think sort of the decision for me, right, in terms of being quite vocal about not going in sort of certainly this season, right, is more so just around like like you look at sort of the foes and ambition off the pitch and what they've been investing into the club. We all know it's not been good enough. Like, me as a fan, I feel like they've took the piss the last 3 years, to be honest with you. I feel like the product's getting more and more expensive year upon year upon year, and the value for money is getting worse and worse and worse because the playing squad's getting decreased. Actually being able to be competitive in the league that we want to be competitive in, for me, it's just negligence at best. And I think, I'm not the only one that's been sort of turned off from going. Like, I think through the podcast, we've been fortunate, we had a Coca-Cola sponsor where there's been tickets and in the last couple of years where I've gone, even free tickets been offered and I've gone as well. I think if things were different as well, right, in terms of, if it was just 10 years ago or even like 5-6 years ago, I wouldn't miss a game home or away. And that's really because like streams weren't readily available. You couldn't watch it at home. And I think really like I've got to a bit of a point with foes and where we are at the moment that on a Saturday, if I can go and play golf, I can go and like just do what I want to do for myself. I can obviously go to a Wolves game. From a financial perspective, unfortunately, I could afford to go and pay it. But, do I think paying £62 on Tuesday at home to Liverpool when we're already pretty much relegated and I can watch it on TV is worth the money? No, it's not. Especially when I know that, the squad and the infrastructure and everything that Foden's done over the years hasn't been there. So, yeah, no, it's not value for money for me. Like, and that's sort of the principle why I've chosen not to go. But I think, it's not, for me, it's not about results. It's not about an ability thing at all. Like, I've been home and away, League One days, like Championship days, like rain, sleet, shine, midweek games, like a lot of listeners here, right? For me, like, the problem for me with this season more specifically about not wanting to go has been that Fosun have sort of given up a little bit, and I've never given up on Wolves myself, but I just think from a value for money perspective, I think they just took the piss a little bit too much over the last couple of years. And Dave, you had that meeting with the club. We've been fortunate enough at times to speak to the club and know sort of, again, some of the things they're looking to do next year or what they're saying. And proof of in the pudding, right? I think they've got to reduce ticket prices for across the ground. I think they need to try and bring. I don't like the hardcore fans back, but they almost need to bring back the fan base, or the localised fan base who've been priced out over the years. I think it's with that being happening as well. The atmosphere has been saturated naturally, but looking at on Friday night, you wouldn't say the atmosphere was anything but saturated, to be honest with you. But I just think, for me, that's sort of been my decision. And I think if we start being, it's not even about winning football games, right? I think if we're financed and we're competitive enough, and the club back us to be competitive enough in a league that we're in, i.e. the Championship next season, I'll be more open to going, 100%. But I just feel like they've got to put the money in the mouth. And it's not just me, right? I think there's a lot of fans that have said they're not going this year or have been turned off over the last couple of years. And they've got a long way to go to win fans like myself and other people back. So I hope that's sort of a decent answer.
There'll be a lot. There'll be a lot of fans. There are a lot of fans in the same boat as well. And it's easy for us. I mean, it is gone. There's a question which I'll touch on in a second. But there's a lot of people that are in a similar boat, or don't trust what Fosun have said, and obviously what they're hoping to do between now and the end of the season. Obviously, there's been a lot of sort of I don't know what the right word is, but obviously it's unknown what the ticket situation is. But like I've said to you boys before, the club are indicating, as far as I'm aware, that there are going to be decreases in terms of price. I don't know the exact figure, but it's significant. So I hope that it's pushing the tickets back in the right direction. And what Nathan Shee's comment was in terms of his Premier League status, and it's a long-term thing, is that he wants, he doesn't want to just shoot the ticket prices back up as soon as you're in the Premier League or sit them back where they are now. He says in the Premier League, they also want the tickets to be good value and good enough value for Wolves. So I'm hoping, I don't think those prices will get released until our fate is sealed regardless. So I listened to, I won't mention who it is, but I listened to another podcast the other day, and they couldn't understand why the prices weren't out now. They couldn't understand why there aren't any transfer rumours ahead of next season already, which I was confused. I mean, we're in February. There's no we don't know, as it stands, we don't know what division Wolves are going to be in. So I don't really understand what you are expecting right now. But I've got it on very good authority. The tickets will come down, and that is the first. Once that's confirmed, that's when people, like you said, mentioned, completely separate thing, Jord, with Rob Edwards. But that's when, if people are happy with the prices, that's when people say, what, fair play to Fosun. They're cocked up on a lot of things, but it seems like they are trying to start to repair and rebuild those bridges between the fans. We spoke about it at length last week, Jord, in terms of the corporate thing as well. Yes, there's always got to be an element of that, but Wolverhampton Wanderers is at the heart of the city. Molineux is is a huge part of this city as well, and we need people that love this football club and love this city. We need to keep them on board as well, and hopefully that will be the start of that as well. Derek T, he says, since Jeff Shee left, the calls of Fosun out seem to have died down. Just wondering what the others think. It's calmed down, but I think Finn, I don't know about you. I think they are still there, but I think that, again, situations like the tickets and so on, when that all comes to fruition, I think it will start to show that Jeff was probably one of the biggest parts of the problem at this football club.
But Jeff benchmarks us against a much inferior team, as we saw on Friday. So maybe he was being generous all along. I think, like, listening to when George was saying then, and this season, I'd say 80% of the home games, my family's motivation is, or at least we'll go for a grill it beforehand. The inertia that sets in with no ambition, not only with the fans, with the players, it has killed the club the last few years. And Jeff is the face of the quotes of, if you want to achieve things, don't be, or you don't, if you want to win things, don't be a Wolves fan. And of course, why would you want someone saying something like that to be the spearhead, the face of the club, and that will make people naturally feel a bit more relieved because, okay, right, new face. Does he want us to win things? We don't know. He might not, but we don't know yet because he hasn't said either way. And there were so many faux pas in things like that because he probably has had a shoestring budget the last few years, but he just seemed to score own goal after and avoidable own goals. And that led to the fan backlash. And of course, it will drop off because the main, as you said countless times, the main objective of that one protest, and when it all sort of culminated in the very simple, was it she out or Jeff out? She out in the South Bank, yeah. and it followed very quickly after.
And kept that just in case Nathan cocks up as well, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, it's natural. It's the same with politics or whatever. If the Conservatives change the Prime Minister, it's still another Conservative Prime Minister come in, but then the pressure dies on them a little bit. So it's a similar thing, and there's some real. They've got to walk a really thin tightrope this summer, and I've got a lot. Yeah, I don't know. Have I got confidence realistically? In my heart of heart, I don't know.
I think everyone's in the unknown because I think most people want it to work, and based on what they've sort of said, from my experience with it face to face, is the right things. But ultimately, we know how Jeff Shee sort of hung us up to dry, and we know it's, Jeff. To be fair, Jeff didn't really ever, other than these very, very early quotes in terms of comparing us to City and things like that. Jeff never really promised anything, but he almost made it was almost a little bit too laid back, where he was just saying, "Oh no, everything's fine." When in reality, it was just like him stood in the middle of this sort of burning house, pretending it was all okay when it obviously wasn't. So. I think with Nathan, I think that's why everyone is very reserved about, if I tweeted right now, like Nathan Shee is going to be the man that takes back into the Premier League, I'll probably have 50 replies and 49 of them be like, what the fuck are you on about? Because people, he's not shown us anything yet. But at the same time, I don't think he's been given that opportunity and the time hasn't come up for him to show it that. First big one will obviously be tickets as and when. Right, we've had some really good questions this week, so I'll quickly try and quick fire the rest of them. Jord, from the Wonder of Two, I like that name. Would you play Mosquera on Tuesday and risk his 10th booking to have a suspension, or just save him for Friday?
Save him for Friday. I'll just say, again, I think, it sounds like I'm really down in tools on Tuesday, but I people like Mosquera, I think Mosquera is. He's a yellow card waiting to happen, and I actually think he's quite vital for how we want to play, and he offers us a lot of athleticism down that right-hand side. And also, I think in a cup tie and a one-off game, you're going to need a bit of shithousery as well. So save him for Friday for me.
Yeah. There you go. Finn from Drew Freakin, rank the most to least likely. Jackson continues his form from the second half on Friday and becomes competent. Hwang returns to score 2 or more goals. All Wolves make a push for 18th.
Well, that's obviously top. I love how we form from the second half.
Sample size of a whole 20 minutes.
Make a push for finish 18th. No, make a push for you can make a case for it. If Wang's
Isn't he mad, by the way?
Are we getting 2 penalties? No,
this time in 3 weeks, that Wolves could be not bottom of the table. I mean, it's only 2 weeks when we talk. Actually, it'll be just over 2 weeks.
And in an FA Cup quarter final as well.
Oh yeah, there you go. Bash.
They're all probably quite unlikely. I don't see Hwang consistently starting. So to get 2, no, is that? No, are we saying that Wolves finish 18th? Is the or
no, just make a push? Probably make a push. Pressure on.
Oh, how do you quantify that? I'll go. They're all so unlikely.
It's not a trick
I'll
question.
Go. I just can't. It's like if that's the ranking, it's like they're all down here, but it's just what order are they in? I'm going. Hwang to score 2 is bottom because I don't think he'll start. I'm going. Let's believe in Chatua. He can go top. Push for 18th in the middle.
There you go. We had a couple of questions in terms of the squad for next season. Ethan Diggory was asking about the current crop of players, how many we think roughly would stay. But an interesting one is Amar's Music Show, do you think there'll be a bomb squad within our team at the start of next season? If so, how do you think the club will deal with them? Be interesting, Jordan. I mean, it's very, very hard to say at the moment, but I genuinely think every time I speak to I've had conversations with people from the club that say, "Oh, this is the best group of players that we've had," and this, and this, and they said about this sort of no dickhead policy last time, and then without being disrespectful, you had the likes of Lamina and Cunha still in there sort of last year, whereas from the sounds the club are giving now, it is a grounded level. So you would hope that if it comes to next season, there isn't going to be anyone particularly throwing their toys out the pram or anything like that. So if I was inclined to answer that, I'd probably say there wouldn't necessarily be a bomb squad, because I think Wolves will have plans in place now to either have players lined up for moves or have players on side to make a push to getting us back into the Premier League at the first time of asking.
Yeah, well, to be fair, none of the players can act like dickheads or be arrogant because they've been shit for all season, haven't they, right? So there's no one who can have any sort of chip on the shoulder because they've all been miles off it all year, right? So in terms of that dickhead policy, if we start winning a few games, you might see a couple of dickheads start appearing. But I generally don't think that is like that within this squad either, to be honest with you. I think Rob has got his idea of probably the core of players that he wants in the Championship and he thinks he can keep and thinks he can build a squad around. Like, for example, hypothetically speaking, if someone like João Gomez was here and around and available to play the first game in the Championship because he hasn't yet been sold, this is a player that I think 100% will move on, I think he would play him. I don't think there'll be anything like that. It'll just be people that he definitely knows that he doesn't want, and even if they're around, they're not going to feature. I would argue someone like Marshall Monetzi. I think Rob Edwards has made his mind up on him pretty early on. And again, bomb squad's probably harsh, but again, I don't necessarily think you see Marshall Monetzi in and around Compton in the first team training squads going into next year. And yeah, I think Rob, like I say, he's going to have his ideas on who he wants, who he doesn't want. But bomb squad might be a bit of a harsh way of putting it. I think he might have a few players that he will let know that he doesn't think they'll be part of his plans next year, and they'll be moved on pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think we'll finish on this point anyway. I think in terms of Monetzi, I actually don't think he'd be an awful player in that second tier, but I think you're right that Rob will probably have players that he'd want above him in the team as well. So, but it may be that situation similar to how we've seen with Fabio Silva, for argument's sake. He might come back late in pre-season if a move's not sorted, and you might see him, start appearing on the bench from sort of like September onwards. But I don't think he'll be necessarily a player that Rob's going to want there first day of back, of pre-season. I think that'll be something that's probably already been worked on, a potential move away for him. But Wolves going to have to take a massive hit on him because we overpaid massively for him, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, 100%. But I agree with you there, Dave. I know I'll just use Monetzi there as an example, but I think he actually would be all right in the Championship because I think there's going to be times where you need that sort of player. And it might be a bit of a lazy comparison, but like when Alfred and Dye would come into the team in the Championship, like where you need a bit more of a robust midfielder, and at times it's hard. It's Tuesday, Saturday, and there might be some games where you do just need to bring people in and be a bit more physical, a bit more mobile, and just be difficult to beat and play against on an away game in Sheffield, for example. At some point in that, though, that's where you could probably bring someone like Monetzi in to be that player, right? But I'm sure Rob is probably looking to bring his own men in, right? I think he wants it to be his squad. You saw that with the Adam Armstrong signing. It's almost like a flag in the ground to say, this is the way I want to go, right? Proven Championship, English football proven. I trust them and stuff. So I do think, you will probably see Rob. I think that, again, when it comes to the phones, I do think there'll be a lot of activity this summer. I genuinely do. And if there isn't, I think there'll be pitchforks on the Waterloo Road.
Yeah, no, I think there's got to be. So we'll wait and see, lads. Really enjoyed it today. Thanks for jumping on as always. Finn, where can people find you if they wish?
Just Finners everywhere. FINERRZ. It's been good to be back on. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for jumping on. Jord, how about you?
Jord7 on Twitter and Instagram.
Perfect. I'm at Dave as a party everywhere, and we're at Talking Wolves everywhere as well. If you want to keep up to date with the latest Wolves news, we'll be obviously back with the previews and the reactions and the fans' reacts for the Liverpool games this week, and all being well, next weekend we can have a chat about those results. I think it's crossed. It is another successful week for Wolves. We've had a few double headers where Wolves have picked up positive results. So we'll wait and see. As always, if you're watching or listening on YouTube, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please feel free to leave us a 5-star rating. But until next time, guys, enjoy your week. Hopefully it's a positive one for the Wolves, and we'll see you all next time.